But for me, honestly, I'm like kind of a cold-hearted Swede. Like for me, everything feels the same. No team is like perfect, right? So every team is beatable, and you're just gonna have to find a way to beat them. I think our biggest strength is adaptation and being able to change our play style.
We're changing our system a little bit here. We're going with the interview first. So at least somebody that might not have any visa issues to go into Champions for Turkey. In Turkey, it's actually FPX coach Doombros, the coach that brought it all, that won it all here for FPX over in Copenhagen at Masters 2. Doombros, Erik, welcome to the show, my man. Big smiles. Looks like you're finally rested as well from a Masters 2 run.
Yeah, happy to be here. Kind of rested, but still, like usually esports stressed. You can never relax. So like permanent tired. Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing, because even then you're apparently even flying out tomorrow to actually go to Turkey to get ready with the boys who are already there and prepping for Champions. So yeah, that's that shows that maybe 24 hours of sleep is the max you're going to get when you're actually in the esports scene, especially as a coach. Jess, I think you've lived through that with Pentagram in the past with Rainbow Six.
You know, look, I this is probably why Doomros is one of my favorite people in the entire Valorant community, because all I can see was like me, like back in 2019, but like in like Erik's form. I'm like, you know what? This guy is living the same way I lived in 2019, maybe even worse now, because you have a lot more, responsibility on your shoulders with everything going on. So I don't envy you, because I've lived it. I know what it's like. So shout out to you, man. I tell you what, I couldn't do it again.
Hell yeah.
I just love being adjacent to you the entire time your career's grown, because like I was talking to Vans about it before the show, that like one of the first pop-off videos on my YouTube channel was like a year in review of the first year of the Valorant meta, and I interviewed you in that shit. Talking about like Fabrican's full retake stuff. And now we're 2 years down the road, and it's like, oh, you're an international champion about to go to the world championship.
I remember being such a fan of your videos. I still am, to be honest. And
nice.
I just searched the YouTube for, is anyone doing some videos on our teams? Like, I want to see if someone has something good to say. And your videos were so on point. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a big fan. And when you interviewed me, and to be honest, I'm like still a big fan of you, Andrew. So I think you're one of the smartest people. Yeah,
this is going to be a wholesome interview of three coaches and me. And I'm just gonna be like just a fan on the sidelines, just listen to all you three speak. So that's awesome. Actually, let's start with that, actually, Doombros, because before we get into like the deeper into trenches, talking about Valorant, talking about Champions that's coming up, what you have going on with FPX at Champions, we'd like to dive a little bit deeper about just your personal experience getting into Valorant coaching as well, and remind some of the viewers maybe that hasn't any or read or heard interviews with you in the past. So you just mentioned here, you and Anders, about Fabrican, right? Or Fabrican. This is one of the first teams that you actually worked with. Was this the actual first team, or was there any previous teams? And how did you get involved into coaching in Valorant?
I mean, for me, I'm quite new in the scene, so I think I'm pretty lucky where I am today. I didn't really coach before Valorant. I coached a bit in Overwatch. I coached a female team actually for maybe 2 years or something, but more on the side. I was kind of working at the graveyard, trying to support my twin brother in his like gaming career. In Overwatch. And then like Valorant came out. I'm sure you guys did the same. As soon as it came out, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna be pro in this game. I'm gonna like dedicate all my life to this. And kind of, like if you get in early, it's more likely you stick. So we made this team, this Swedish team called Fabriken. It means the factory in Swedish. And we kind of knew as well we had to like create a branding. So we had some guy do a Spotify song. We did some like Twitter stuff. We actually have a fan song on Spotify you can listen to. It's really bad. No, it's not bad. I was it's really good.
What is it? Link it. Drop it.
No, it's. I can drop it later because it's a bit embarrassing. But we were pretty good. It's like I think we were like top 10 or something like this in the start of the scene, and then we found Sipan, right? I think Nip. I think they kicked him twice back in that day, and we were like, yeah, we're just gonna pick you up, and we instantly went to like a top contender in the scene. And I think it was me, Emil, and Latex, like kind of leading that team together, and me and my brother being like, we're not calling it like head coaches, we're kind of coaching together, you know, because I know usually there's a hierarchy with like head coach, assistant coach, but with me and my brother, like that's a good thing about being twins. We could like be two head coaches together, you know, because we kind of function as one, right, with no ego. So that continued, and then obviously FPX happened. They took me, Sipan, Shadow Medu, right, and merged it with some other random guys, you know, Angel. I don't know if you heard about him, but basically the superstars and some other players, and yeah, and that's kind of how it took off. Started as an analyst and worked my way up and got promoted, and here I am, you know. But for me, I've been just lucky to, you know, I've been having the same like team basically since the start of Valorant. I haven't had to switch any teams or anything like this, you know. So yeah, for me, the road has just been, you know, constantly just working and being in the same environment and not really having to deal with all the stuff you have to deal with in esports usually. So yeah, but that's kind of my journey, and just work from the dark, like to be in the background, and right now popping up a bit everywhere. But to be honest, I'm a Swede. I just like doing stuff, you know, in the background. I don't like being on the camera too much, you know. So yeah,
I mean,
that's
look,
my background.
I wanna dig deeper about how you guys jumped in with FPX, because let's be honest, like if you think about European TAC FPS, you're not really thinking about an organization like FPX, for example, jumping in, picking up teams. How did that even begin? Like I gotta know how FPX and you guys were all jumping in together.
So I think FPX wanted to invest a bit in Europe, right? We're a Chinese organization, and I think they created a CS:GO team as well. Didn't go too great for them, I guess, but they also wanted to like sprinkle their toes into the EMEA scene, I guess. So I think it was the Prodigy agency, Jerome or something, that kind of put it together. And they interviewed some people. They actually interviewed me, and I got denied the first time. But then somehow I managed to sneak my way in anyway. So it was basically just that, you know, one org who wants to invest, and the agency for some players like put it together, and yeah, it was kind of an obvious choice. You know, you kind of have the 5 best players from the 2 unsigned teams at the time. And yeah, and ever since then, you know, we just worked the same way all the time, and yeah, and nothing else. It's just a pretty boring story, to be honest. But that's how it is.
It sounds way more boring than most
Yeah.
people's stories. Like mine as a coach was like I had to move across the world, and then I had to Samsung Italy, and I was moving across everywhere. And you're just like, yeah. So we're with the same org, and we do the same things every month. And I'm like, that's the dream, brother. That is the dream.
That's the Riot anime video clips where they do like the anime stories of all the cool stuff from Bolster and all. And it's just like Doom Bros in the corner. Yeah, I'm just working. Things are going good.
I mean, if you find the formula for like working and evolving, you know, it doesn't have to be very dramatic, you know.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
We just, you know, we work good together. We don't have many staff, you know. It's mainly me and Angel, right, running the team. So that's how it's been since the start. So.
That's a pretty perfect segue, because something that I know that, like, in talking to other coaches here in NA, it's something that they always wonder about, because sort of your journey with the roster once Angel and the rest of the party parrots sort of came in, like, how does that whole dynamic work? Because it's Angel, who obviously is like a really strong leadership voice, and then it's you started as an analyst, then you went to a coach, and like, how does that whole dynamic work between the two of you?
So I'm gonna like straight up, in the beginning it was rough, because like coming from like coaching Fabrican and then going into a guy like Angel, he always has like very strong opinions, and he's like he's a genius. So you kind of have to swallow your own pride, and like allow yourself to be taught by him. And I guess that's his way of like dealing with people. He likes to, like, if he sees someone who has like the capabilities and the talent, he kind of taught me the way on how to be a coach, and how to do things correctly, and kind of brought me into that role of how he wanted, what he wanted from a guy who he's working with, right? So that's why I started as an analyst and kind of slowly built my way up into a position where it worked a bit better, you know. So I think it's a like symbiosis between him and me, right? Obviously, he's still gonna have a last word because he's VGL, and I'm a bit more of a passive person, but that doesn't mean I can't take command and lead the team. It just means that um, I don't like run all the game plans and like being a dictator. You know, that's not how it should be. So it's more like we're good on different things, and we kind of combine it, and we worked so well together for 2 years now that it's kind of natural for us to work together, you know, and build stuff together. So it's more of a two-man show, I would say.
Awesome. I actually want to ask you a little bit too, outside of like the the training regimen and putting all the strats together and stuff like that too, but more you guys with Fun Plus Phoenix because as we mentioned before, Fun Plus Phoenix is known to be basically a League of Legends organization. Yes, they had a stint with a CS:GO where we had a couple of issues over in LA in that storyline. If you follow the CS:GO scene, but now that China has become a prominent region in Valorant as well. And they also have, I think, a division in China called like Fun Plus Phoenix Zuke or something like that.
Yep.
And we also talk about potential conflicts of interest once we get into like the partnership program and stuff like that too. I'm putting you on a spot right now too, but is this one of the things that might be like on your mind of like what's next? Are they going to try to go back into China? What's next for us as a core?
Damn, Vance.
Yeah, that's high roll,
Going
man.
for the throat. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Investigative reporter Vance Silly for today.
Oh, watch
I'm
out,
gonna give-
George. We got Vance. All right.
Let's see a political answer. No, it's like we know this, and sometimes we even look at the VLR and they play actually better comps than we do. You know, it's like more meta comps. It's like we are here with our Euro and our stupid stuff, and we're really playing like the perfect comps, and we're like a bit worried. But to be honest, I mean, it's up to FPX what they want to do, but obviously we have a world-beating roster here in EMEA, and of course we're gonna like stick with us and like have a team who can actually like contest at the world stage. But I think I'm not sure how good they are in China with Fun Plus Phoenix team there. I heard they're pretty good actually. So for me, it is what it is. Like I think it's pretty cool that they have some investment in China too and helping develop a scene there because like for me as a fan, I want China to also be in the scene.
Of course.
I think that's what I want. Like I want to see Edward Gaming. I want to see how how they play, and that's the fun of the game is like more regions getting involved. So that's my political answer. That it's interesting to have multiple teams. So as long as we don't play too much cuckoo comps, I'm sure we're gonna be fine. But maybe if FX is another Euro, we're gonna question us.
Dude,
and
I still believe in the Euro breeze, man. I still believe in the Euro breeze. There was
Me
some
too,
cool
man.
stuff in there.
There's difference between on paper and in real life. It's like
yeah.
some things always look good on paper, and then you come to a pressure situation and everything just crumbles. So
This is actually just all a long con. He's downplaying the Yori now. They're
Yes.
playing it every game, every map during champs. Get ready.
Because he was trying to do the thing where no one works it out and then you spill the secrets. Now he's going to have to reverse engineer everything, man. Come on. I mean, look, after Masters, I'm going to be honest, and I was on the analyst desk, you probably know, I didn't put FPX in my top 4 because, I didn't know what you guys were going to put on the board. I didn't really have a lot of evidence to go off. It's the analyst brain, so excuse me on that. But by the time you guys did walk away as the champions of Masters, did you just think that was... I got to ask... It's a very finicky question. Don't give me a political answer. I'm putting you on the spot here. Did you think it was easier than you expected? Like, be honest. Like, you do all the prep, you get in, but then you watch your boys play, and you're like, actually, we beat them a lot easier than I would have thought we beat them. We would have had a chance. Maybe if Sagetsu wasn't there, you know what I mean? Like, what about those finals? Because I got to know. Because as a coach, sometimes I've beaten teams, and I'm like, that was easier than I expected.
I would say like a part of me felt it was a bit easier in Masters than it was in like EMEA.
Okay.
But that's because you play against these teams all the time in EMEA, so obviously they're gonna know how you play, and the styles are gonna like be a bit tougher to play, against each other. So for that reason, I would say it was a bit more stressful playing in the like regular VCT season. But to be honest, like every team when you come to these events are so good, especially individually. Like every team shoots so hard. But for me, honestly, I'm like kind of a cold-hearted Swede. Like for me, everything feels the same. Like it has felt the same for like even last year. It just felt the same. Like I know we're a really good team, and when I look at the opponents, no team is like perfect, right? So every team is beatable, and you just gonna have to find a way to beat them. And I know I have like 5 individuals in the team who can like perform really well if the circumstances are right. So like for me, it like I wouldn't say we're underdogs, but I wouldn't say we're like favorites either. We just approach like it game for game, So I don't really think about like the whole picture. Maybe I should a bit more, but usually I just think about the next match, and if we win it, I'm a bit happy. If we lose it, then work harder for the next, and yeah, and somehow we won. So.
So, I mean, looking at that event, you're like, oh, it wasn't like easier or harder than we expect. We just take it a game at a time. Do you sort of feel the same way headed into champs now? Where like, do you think it's going to be easier or harder relative to Copenhagen? I mean, it felt like you guys did it the hardest way you conceivably could have.
Yeah.
To be honest, like lower bracket run in playoffs, like potential sub issues, visa nonsense. Like, does it almost feel like Champions is going to be an easier run than what you just had to go through?
Not really. I think we have we're like plagued by issues, so we obviously have some like unknowns and some issues still that I can't really talk about. But there's still some like travel issues we're gonna have. I think on Twitter, it's public knowledge that we brought in a sub as well that's gonna travel with us, just in case. But I think when you win an event like Optic or any other team, like every team is watching your strats. Like people are playing your comps, right? Like I say, a lot of people playing the style we are playing, and obviously that is gonna be harder going into this tournament because we're not gonna have that like a known factor as much, in terms of play style, but also like in terms of like what comps we like to run. Obviously, we're a team that likes to adapt and change, so like, it's not that huge of a problem. But you're more in the spotlight, and people are looking more at you. I think during Copenhagen, people are kind of like you, yes, not like disregarding us, but putting us in an underdog position when I felt we shouldn't, which was perfect for us, because that just meant people weren't really looking at us like we had a sub, and all that. So it's definitely gonna be harder, like no team has won a tournament twice in a row, right? And I think it is because like with enough prep, I think you can like win against anyone, right? So we just have to change some stuff up, which we are doing, right? And we're always doing, like, and just prep harder and try to perform, and just take it, game by game. I don't know what more to say. It's like I'm such a. I haven't even thought about like the tournament or the groups or anything. I'm just thinking about we're gonna play on this date, and that's it, And I'm not stopping to really appreciate like the whole thing,
Yeah.
It's
Well, first off, I think we all were. It was all difficult for us to predict FPX to make it far because originally you guys are almost going in with like 2 or 3 subs. But then when it's only 1 sub, then okay, maybe. And then suddenly Sagetsu comes in, and then it's the fucking Cinderella run, and then we all shut our mouths. So that's for sure like the nice FPX run that we were able to see. There he goes, like Sagetsu saying that he's going to make it into 2 hours. Everybody was hyped up about it, and I think that the story followed. At some point, for me, I didn't even know it was going to drop into a point of like, is this just going to be like the honeymoon phase, and then suddenly it's just going to stop? And especially when it comes down to like the 5th time or the 6th time that you had to play against Fnatic in the lower brackets this time to finally beat them, right? And I don't want to say it's because of the law of averages at some point that you had to beat Fnatic, but does it feel that through all of these times that you keep having a staple matchup against Team Fnatic that you haven't figured out, but there's still something missing? Is it just like communication, small mistakes, or are they always coming out with something new that seems to almost anti-strat you at some point, and everybody's leveling up every time you're playing each other.
I feel Fnatic are like we're actually playing kind of the same. Like I think we're a team who plays the same comps on a lot of the maps, like even throughout the whole season, right? So like we don't really come with new stuff. It's more every time we play them, we make so many like stupid mistakes, like fundamental mistakes, like overheating, and then Alpha Year and Dirk is just the best players in the world, and everything is going wrong, and or we're super close, and somehow like it goes always to overtime. It's just been like the curse, and we keep on playing them, and it's obviously a fun matchup because we're such a great team, and they're similar to us, where they actually have like cool ideas and cool strats, and we have a good IGL and good players, but we just felt like I don't know, it was just such a boring boring match to play. Like what I wanted to say is like I felt like though like we only really had like for me 2 real matches against Fnatic. Like the first one was obviously the first game of the regular season where it's a completely new team, right, for both, right? So you don't really have any preparation to do or any scouting, and obviously we're good when we can scout our opponents, right? And then I think we played them a lot in the playoffs, I think, and that was always like the schedule was a bit uh, uh, yeah, I almost said a bad word there, but screwed.
You're allowed to swear. You're allowed to
yeah,
swear.
yeah, yeah. But the schedule was
let it
completely
out.
fucked, you know, and
Yeah.
had to play like two best of threes and then a best of 5 like straight after each other, while the team in the upper bracket could like chill out and watch our games, right, and have a break. So obviously that kind of hindered us a bit in the like best of 5 match against Fnatic. When more did we play them? Maybe a bit earlier as well, but I felt like it was always some kind of issues. You know, we obviously have one player who's in Ukraine, right? So I think in one morning they were like bombing his city, right? So
Yeah.
it's like a lot of things that's going on for us. That in that rematch, like the 5th time, right? In that was it the semi or the quarter? But
it was quarters,
yeah. It's like I was thinking finally we just have a whole team here. We actually had the same amount of preparation time for both teams, and there's actually like material to prep for. And we have everyone here, you know, equal playing grounds. Like now is the time, you know. I felt it was just perfect, and that made it a bit more fun for me because we could finally like play against each other and like have the same amount of prep and just see who is better on that day. But I just gotta say, you know, I think Fnatic was playing a bit worse than they should in that tournament, you know, because I still think they're like such a good team. You know, they have a right mentality, they have a right structure. So yeah, I just hope they do better this time. But still did really good, right? They still came. Was it top 4? I think it was top 4, right?
Top
Top
6,
4,
I guess,
yeah,
at
top
some
4,
point.
they were
Something like
fourth, I think.
Yeah.
So like top 4,
Yeah.
I think it's super good. You know, like if we came top 4, obviously we would be disappointed, but in the long run, it's still very good to have 2 EMEA teams up there, right? So yeah, I just hope we don't meet them again because I just don't want to play them more. But if we play them more, then fine, okay. But I'm hoping to play Liquid a bit more. Like I kind of want to crush those guys.
Ooh, shit.
Oh, is it because let me guess, is there someone over in Liquid that might particularly look a little bit like you and might have his hand in the coaching pie as well?
The classic.
Yeah, he's like a more handsome version of me, you know, so I have to beat him down, you
Oh,
know. I'm the older brother, you know, I have to show him his boss. So I just want to
that's so
play
cute.
him, you know. It's just a dream of mine to play him on a stage, and like yeah, I don't
I
know, it's been a
mean,
dream for us both, so I just hope we get to meet somewhere in the playoffs. But yeah.
it's the World Championship stage, baby. You can't get a better stage than that. So,
Yeah,
I
man.
mean, I hope you do. I mean, I wanted to ask because obviously you're in Group C. Now, I don't hold punches. I'm pretty honest. I think, depending how crew plays, it's a pretty free group for NA and EMEA. If everyone plays at the top of their threshold and we're not relying on certain, star players on crew and everything to get the job done, technically, you should see, FPX exit go through. Who are you most looking forward to playing in your group? Or who do you think is the biggest threat? I would say exit, like if we're just like putting the numbers out there, but a lot of other people might say crew.
Oh, I would Sersha, or how
Sersha,
you say
yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're actually underrated. Like they were super
They
hard to
are.
play against. Like really showing some like cool stuff.
I love
Um,
the inflection in your voice when you see Xerxes in your group. Like, is this the first time you've seen your
no, it's
You're
like
Xerxes.
I'm just
Who's
Xerxes
this?
in our group? Damn! Like,
Oh shit.
I'm like a guy. I'm hyper focused on like every matchup. So like I'm just
Yeah.
hyper focused on crew, you know,
Yeah.
and that's it.
I mean, you gotta be. They're no slouch. So
Yeah,
it
they're
makes
really
sense.
good. Like we screamed them obviously a lot of times. Like I know how good they can be, especially at LAN. You know, they're like really energetic. Like they can pop off. So I think we're like a really scary opponent, and we're gonna like try super hard to like be as prepared as possible. But I really want to scream exit. You know,
Yeah.
we
I
or
want to see that.
play, not scream.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
we
you can
played
treat it
Optic.
like a scrim if you want. I mean,
Yeah,
you guys just wanna, you know.
it's because we played Optic so many times. Like we played them in official, we played them a lot in scrims, right? We kind of know how we play, but we never played exit, and it's kind of interesting seeing some other NA teams and how they play. You know, I want to play exit, I want to play 100 Thieves. I think 100 Thieves is they're legit my favorite team in the world. You know, except for
Oh.
my team. You know, it's 100 Thieves. I think they show some really cool stuff that like some people don't appreciate unless you're like really invested in the scene and know what to look for. About exits, it's like I have a feeling it's more of a traditional team. Like more, it's hard to really put into words what I mean, but I kind of just want to play them because I think it would be I think it would be cool just to play some different teams.
Exit feels almost like NA doing Europe, which is
Yeah.
like that's part of the interesting like dynamic of it. Is it's like an NA team running their team and like building playbooks in a very European way. At least
Yeah.
if you compare them to the rest of the ecosystem. So
It's like I haven't watched too much of them yet. Like I'm gonna watch, but I felt like they were very traditional, like in that sense. You know, they felt very not like us, but like in the same like good fundamentals. You know, defaults or like 4+1 hitting and cipher lurking and stuff like this, right? So just some like common things that like are just strong. Maybe not the coolest stuff, you know, but it's just strong, good gameplay. So
Yeah.
um,
Good scaling,
think-
good trading.
yeah,
Not too many nerdy things.
And I guess that's why, like, people say we're a boring team, you know, as well, you know, and people say Exit are also like not the flashiest team, but that's why I kind of want to play them because, like, I respect, I respect that style
The
so
slow
much.
play.
So. Yeah, or just like you don't always have to like be as loud as possible. You can, you know, play to win. You know, that's what you're here for, right? So.
For sure.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So looking at your group, you say you're sort of focused in on crew without giving away too much. Like, how do you sort of look at that matchup? You say like, oh, they're super high energy. Obviously, you're sort of staring down the barrel of Kesnet at all times. So, what does that matchup sort of feel like?
To be honest, usually when we look at matchups, like we go into like specifics, like of exactly what we like to do on each map, right? So the approach can probably be very different from map to map, right? And obviously I can't give away too much about that, but it's like we're just gonna take it at face value, right? Like see how we play and decide how we want to play against it, and that's kind of it. Like I know we're pretty high energy. They like to scream a lot during like each round and stuff like this. So like we're bound to overheat. We're bound to like try to make hero plays and make mistakes. And I feel like we're kind of hopefully we're used to playing against that style because that's like 80 or 90% of the teams in the tournament, right? So yeah, but it's gonna be fun. Like we screamed them a couple of times and it felt like a Turkish team on steroids, kind of. So
I think I used verbatim that analogy
okay.
when I was with Fnatic and we scrimmed them during the group stage. I was like, wow, these guys play like a Turkish team.
Yeah. So I think I just have to book a lot of Turkish teams leading up to it. I think it will be good. Yeah.
Well, actually, even looking at preparation from not only from teams but from yourselves personally as a group, because back in like 2020, You had an interview with Gigi Recon, and you were saying that because you had some players that are more international, like Zipan, with everybody else that's around like the CIS region, you had to actually do some call outs or do some communications in Russian in order to get the main point out and the main strategy out. So now 2 years down the line, how has the improvement been in terms of like that type of team communication and call outs for FPX as a whole, now that you still work with the same core?
I mean, we have a rule. I think when I said that, it was like at the very start, like for almost 2 years now, we had a rule to not speak anything but English in the team. You know, we don't use any other languages. Like not even if there's like two Russians clutching, like they have to use English, and
Okay.
I think that just helps them communicate. And to be honest, it's actually really good. Like I kind of wanted to make a communication video, kind of like a comms video, just to show
Yeah.
how good the comms are, because like Sugetsu is like really good at like coming in English. He's like even like mid-round calling, like doing stuff like this.
Nice.
Obviously, Xiao has become really good at English. I'm sure you guys maybe have you talked with Xiao, but maybe you get to do it.
Once you
At
win
champs,
champs.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
And then obviously the only guy who has troubles like speaking English is Artis, you know.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
do you need a translator for artists?
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's the only problem, you know. So maybe with him we just have to, dumb it down a bit, because it's like that's the only hard part, because like when you don't, like for me, English is my second language, like it is for
Mhm.
everyone. But I think that can sometimes be an advantage, because you simplify everything, down
Mhm.
to its core. Like when you're explaining something or you're coming something, it also becomes like very simple, because obviously it's not your main language. So
Mhm.
I think that kind of here helps with making things like very clear and
Mhm.
everyone understanding it.
Sense.
So um, yeah, for us, like communication is like no problem. It hasn't been
I want that
a
comms
problem.
video now, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, get that comms video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hook me up.
I gotta
Yeah.
see that. I mean, they're my favorite videos on YouTube at the moment. It's all my algorithm now is just different teams' comm videos, and I'm like, all right, well, that's my montage for the day. But
Hell yeah.
one thing I wanted to like segue us into, because I know it's a podcast, we ask lots of questions, you get interviewed and stuff as well, but 99% of the time we ask you questions about your players. And you're like, I just work in the background and stuff like that. But I think it's probably pretty clear that, you've done a lot of work and you barely ever sleep. That's something that we poked fun at you at Masters for, because you're like, I'm exhausted, and we're like, yeah, get some sleep. I think a lot of viewers don't know what it is, quote unquote, that coaches do. Like some coaches, like I was an analyst and a coach, for example. I did both strategic coaching and mental health coaching, and of course mental coaching from there. What is it that you do for the team, so everyone understands? Okay, Doombros isn't just the guy that stands behind and says good luck kind of thing, but there's so much more to it, and I think viewers might not understand that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what the team needs, right? I think being a coach is kind of, sorry, like not a floating, uh, like it's kind of, you have to do what's needed in the team, I think. So for me, obviously bringing like all the structure, like planning on what we need to do, what stress do we need, like bringing those stress, bringing new ideas, uh, like identifying the problems, but also being the guy who can fix the problems, right? Because like basically coaching is you're just a problem solver, right? It's kind of like coding. You're a debugger, you're constantly like you have your grand like idea, and then you have to practice it. You have to like facilitate like the right practice and how to do it, how we should think about practice, ask the right questions. It's like you're basically the guy who's like leading the whole train, but also like, I don't know, creating the interior of a train. I don't know how to explain it. I'm not good at analogies, but you know what I mean. It's
Yeah.
basically you're kind of doing a little bit of everything. But for me, I'm definitely more strategical in that sense. I'm not a guy who's kind of gonna make a lot of like good motivational speeches and like telling them to sleep 8 hours a day and stuff like this. I'm more of like in game, like what we need to do, what setups, how does it need to look, and fixing problems. And obviously, I'm a guy who does all the scouting and vent stratting and stuff like this. So usually during tournaments, that's usually my main job, is like the preparation part of it, and being able to present it to Angel and the team. So it's a bit of everything, right? And obviously on the side, I think I talked with you, Anders, a lot about this, and you actually helped me like doing a lot of stats and a lot of analytics as well. I think that's also very helpful, especially if you do it for yourself. Like it kind of improves my coaching and what I need to focus on, and how we need to structure our plans 3-4 weeks ahead, right? So that's really helping as well. But to answer your question, you basically do everything that's not paying.
So, sounds about right.
Yeah.
With all of that stuff going on, I mean, you've talked about like, oh yeah, we have a sub in the wings. I remember you tweeting out at one point that there were, I think, 2 analysts that were like giving you some spot help during your
Yeah.
Copenhagen run. Yeah, do you have any sort of thing like that going on moving to chance? Do you think you're gonna have anyone waiting in the wings just to like give you a little bit of support so that you can maybe like sleep, I guess, a little during the event?
So the problem with like getting external help is that usually the scouting has to be tailored to your team's needs, right?
Mhm.
And I know what our team needs and what our team needs to hear, and I know what works well for Angel and what works well for us, what we need to look out for, and obviously I know all our strats and everything that we can do, right? So like coming with suggestions and with anti-strats, right? So when you get external help, like I did, obviously it helps a little bit, especially when it's like a lot of things going on. You might have to prep maybe 6 maps in one day, right? And it's a bit easier if you can delegate the task to other people, but it doesn't really help too much because I still feel like I need to do the scouting as well, right? So you kind of do double scouting because obviously the team is used to my style of doing things, and if I have to sacrifice my sleep, but it's gonna make us maybe win, then obviously I'm gonna do it. So now for this champions, we actually got one guy. Had some trials. We get one guy that I think is gonna do really well. And not Shroud.
Oh no, we weren't meant to leak this, guys.
Unlucky.
But we got one guy a bit earlier and kind of vetting him into the role of what's like how I do scouting and what we need. So he kind of can take my is out my work a bit, so I can focus more on the team during the tournament, right? Because like if you have to do all the scouting and also like focusing on the practice and the team and like creating strats and adding things, it can be very overwhelming, So we just brought in someone now and trying to vet him in a little bit, so it can be a bit more useful. And then me and Angel can focus more on the team and and on the players and what we need to add and stuff like this, So hopefully that will work for for this, but it's gonna be a change for sure because the team is obviously used to me doing the scouting, so it feels a bit nervous to like leave that torch to someone else, at least for some maps. Since I am a bit of a control freak when it comes to, to all that. I think everyone are right when you're in a team for so long. So we will see.
When you actually had the conversation with Anders and you're saying how discussing with Anders, you talked about how Anders helped you out with a couple of stats and stuff like that too. I want to actually nerd out and learn about that a little bit more because I'm not a numbers guy, right? And when I look at sometimes VCT broadcasts, especially us in North America, our stats are like around CAS, which doesn't really mean much for me, or like how many pictures Vanity has posted about his cat in the past 3 weeks. So like if we're looking at other numbers, I want to know from a head coach perspective, sometimes you're looking at strategy for a team. For an analyst, sometimes it's like, okay, finding tendencies to help out with the head coach and the IGL and to start anti-stratting teams. But when it comes down to statisticians, what did they look and what numbers do you look into and how does that apply into what you're currently studying from teams' tendencies?
I think Anders can answer it better, but I'm gonna give I'm gonna give what I think about it, right? So I don't think stats are too useful when you're scouting. Obviously, it's useful as a base, right, and as reference material, right, just to like confirm your things, right. But obviously, the eye test and just watching the VODs is always the best, and then you can have your stats to kind of I don't know, confirm or like
It's a sanity check. Is
yeah,
the way
yeah,
I always
exactly.
describe
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
me, the stats that are more interesting is like things that you can actually use, like especially in practice and in scrims. Like I'm very big because I do the stats for myself. I usually do like just like manual custom stats. That's just okay. What we're working on this week, okay, and I'm gonna do stats that's kind of tailored to what we need to improve for this week, and I can keep track of it. Or I maybe do some like overarching like stats for a couple of months, right? Because most stats kind of is a red herring until enough time has gone past, right? But it's just really important to like sit down with the team or with the coach and like decide like what is actual usable stats, because a lot of stats guys kind of have 1 million stats and they don't know how to use it, or it's just a bunch of nothing because you're not using it. Like it doesn't tell you anything, you know.
Yeah.
They're just like important, and I think it's very individual from team to team what stats is actually useful, and that's why I kind of did a lot of
Yeah.
not like raw stats, you know, like or round conversions and stuff like this. I did more like around the map, you know, like where did you die? Blah, blah. It's like
Okay.
areas or like time. It's like you just do like I just
Almost like heat maps too that you could actually try to
yeah,
look into.
yeah. It's basically heat maps, but you basically know what I want, like what would help me individually, and I just track that and do the custom ones. But
Okay.
obviously, like stats can help, but you just have to have a smart team or a smart guy that actually knows, you know, not to just point out that our 4v5 is a bit weak, but also like why is it weak and where is it weak and how can we fix it, right? It's so you kind of have to have that extra layer, not just the stats, but like the next thing, right? So I
Okay.
think that's the like biggest problem we've had, because I've taken in some stat guys as well, and it's not been useful, you know. They just sit there and do stats and do a lot of work, and I feel bad for them because no one is looking at the stats right and implementing it in a good way. So
Okay.
maybe I just want to to also add some things, because like he's the like stat master, like I
Honestly,
salute
I
him,
mean,
so
you hit it right on the head. Like, I mean, the short summary of basically everything you just said is like stats are really just you're using it to set a baseline and sort of set directionality. Like, I think the we're bad in 4v5 example that you just used is like literal perfection, because you can have stats all day where it's like, oh, our first like our first kill first death ratio is awful here. Well, why is that the case? The stat isn't telling you how to fix something. It's not something that is like in itself a solution. You have to go back and understand why that stat is relevant and find the path to actually improve on it. And like I think that's the big difference is like there's a difference between looking at a stat and saying, oh, that's cool, and looking at a stat and saying, how does this drive action that's actually going to make us a better team?
yeah,
That's the
100%.
one thing that broke my heart when I moved to being an analyst from a coach and everything like that was, as a coach, I have all of these cute little Excel formulas that pop up in red and go, my player who should be getting opening kills is not getting opening kills. I got to go back in the VODs and find out why. But then I get on the desk and I'm like, oh my God, guys, I found out that this opening kill. And then they're like, all right, next segment. And I'm like, hold on though.
Yeah.
I just realized why they were doing that, and I don't have time to tell you guys. So let's go to the next segment and like have a laugh about it. That's probably the hardest thing being on the analyst desk, is I love sitting there and doing VOD reviews. I mean, back in Siege, I used to do it on YouTube for hours and hours, and you must know what it's like to just sit there. And when you finally figure out what maybe a crutch of the other team is on defense or on attack, and you're like, oh my God, they rely on this guy here, and you're like, I'm gonna counter it, I'm just gonna completely knock him out. I mean, I miss doing all of those things. But there was one thing I miss doing as a coach, it's VOD reviews, and then you work out that one area or that power position on the map, and you're like, yeah, that's it. That's how I'm gonna get them. So yeah, I love that.
But at the same time, like just stats and stuff like this is like it's also very interesting. Like you don't have to like, especially on broadcast, right? You don't have to like find the solutions or stuff. Like just showing the stats can actually just be like, as a fan of a game, I kind of love nerd stats anyways, you know.
Yeah.
I like when people like post like Twitter stuff, you know, and post some interesting like statistics and stuff like this. Is kind of drives a nice narrative, right, for a broadcast. So
It's
obviously,
about the cool stats, not the actual ones. Like, it's literally the
Yeah.
other side of the coin.
It's so
Yeah,
true,
yeah.
isn't it? It's like, oh my God, look at
The
this
worse
kill,
the
look at
stat
that.
is,
And I'm like,
that's
oh.
probably the better it's going to be
you
for
should see
broadcast. Like,
you should see my stats in the off season. I did like I like took some like YouTube like graph like I don't know like normalizing shit and like doing like all these fucking Bezier curves or whatever, and it like looks like a whole fucking mess. I'm like so proud, it looks so cool, but it's like the most useless thing ever. But it just looks so cool, and I just have it on my dashboard, and it just looks like I'm a professional. You know, I have these all lines going everywhere. So, but yeah.
Did you like my style? I think it was in your game where I pointed out that every team who won the first pistol or the second pistol of the entire series had won every map so far, right until the end. And I was like, guess who's gonna win? I don't know which match it was. It might have been one of yours, but those kind of stats that I just pull out of my ass now are like the pretty but useless ones. You're like,
Yep.
that's pretty that everyone won a pistol. It doesn't mean there's huge correlation there, but that's pretty. And so I said it, and supposedly I cursed the team. But I think it's fans' ability to say, you know, average doesn't always, or the perfect correlation doesn't exist in the world in statistics. So
I mean, I have a
yeah.
best stats. Like every time he gets to wear colorful pants, he wins. You know, so like, that's like the same
Hello,
amount of
see?
statistics. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
And to continue as well, and to take a step back to back into Masters, I guess, because we got to a point where prior to Masters, you had the general manager being Pekka with Fun Plus Phoenix that actually unfortunately left the organization. And we know that for an organization you're a fan of, such as 100 Thieves, that actually brought in DDK with, as well as Sean Garris and Mike's as coach and assistant coach, built this good system for something that worked very well for 100 Thieves. Did you have to sort of like fill in different shoes and hats and roles in terms of filling in for general manager as well to figure out what would be the next steps for FPX as a core and as a team when you're scouting out for players?
Well, yeah. Ever since Pekka left, yeah, we haven't gotten a GM since then, right? So that kind of responsibility has fallen a bit, or most on me, right? So I think during this like year and a half, or maybe just a year, I've kind of been the coach and like a soft GM, you would say. So I had a lot of things to do, for better or for worse, you know. You're kind of doing everything. You're kind of a glue who holds the whole like structure together, right? Both like organizationally, but also like within the team. So yeah, that's kind of been my role. I kind of should have mentioned it as a coach, right? But like both like responsibilities that I have outside of coaching isn't really like coaching, but yeah, that's kind of fallen on me. I think. Yeah, nothing else more to add to that, to be honest. It's just, you know, we're a small team, you know, we're a small family. I think when we were in Copenhagen, we were 6 people like all the time. We have a lot of space on the bus, you know, to just chill out and hang out.
I think that's one of the important things too. Like just bonding as a team also just helps within the server too. And I think that kind of showed. Like I think again, if you want to go through like the main storylines of okay, so Getsu's in, everybody's hanging out as a core 6. We got a core 6. Now we can run through the bracket, and then suddenly you win everything. So sometimes that's the mentality that you need, and the mentality that's going to help you win. And speaking of that, and looking at the pulses of other teams going into champions, of course. Doom Bros, you're here on a North American podcast here with Valoranting, so we have to ask something about North America, and it's going to be about Optic Gaming, more specifically by 2 people in chat over here on twitch.tv/DNP that asked. It was Deadpool04, so it's like a 2-part. The first one being from Deadpool. If FPX had to play against Optic Gaming in Copenhagen, would you have shit on that team? Right? And the second question the second question comes from Kirby that says, can you ask about Optic through their officials and scrims? So basically, what do you think about Optic after seeing them at Copenhagen? And 2, would you have still shit on that team?
We wouldn't shit on them for sure. It's like Ye is probably one of the best players. Like obviously Sugetsu is the best player in the world, but Ye is like he's just so good. I think we're a team who kind of have a similar vision of our team. Like we like to innovate a lot, we like to switch a lot, and I think they kind of find the same formula as we do. So like I respect them a lot. Like I don't want to say that we're gonna win again, right? But we're gonna like put up a fight, right? About your second thing, I'm being a bit too nice, but sorry. About the second thing about like you said like the difference between scrims and officials, right? for Optic. Honestly, like results were the same, just the same thing. So yeah, nothing to add. We won scrims and won the official.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. Look, you're being rather nice on this. I don't appreciate the fact that you've sat here and been so nice with us, considering we're allowed to fucking swear on this podcast. Sorry. You've been a little too nice. I have a sort of two-part question. One is a more serious one of what do you think is your major strength? Obviously, every team has their major strengths. I like that you guys play time down on attack. I like that you poke and prod, you bait out utility. I love watching you guys play. Obviously, it means that I have to sit there for hours because you take so fucking long on attack. but I love at the end of the day that you get the job done. So what is your biggest strength? And as a result of that strength, do you think you'll be the first ever back-to-back champions as a result of that?
So I think our biggest strength is adaptation and being able to change our playstyle. I think a lot of people think we're the team who plays slow, but like we have some maps and some comps where we will play like really fast, right? Like we can bring out the Neon, we can bring out the Euro. I think like that's our strength. Like we can change our style from day to day, and like we're playing the style that obviously fits the matchup, and that's the plan, right? So that means like, okay, if people expect slow play, we can change it up and vice versa. So that's definitely our strength is like we're adaptive. We have a really smart IGL. We can actually do those adaptations and implement like the changes, right? There's like one thing about having scouting, having a good read, but like there's a whole, like you have to be able to implement it and actually shot call using the adaptations, right? And there's not a lot of IGLs in the world who can actually take scouting and take reads and actually execute them in game. So that's definitely our strength. And with that said, obviously I don't predict our games or our tournaments, so I have no idea if we will win or not, and we're just gonna focus on winning against crew, and that's it.
Still so tame as an answer, but still at least very humble in the answers too, and that's what we love about Erik Doombros. Doombros, I want to thank you for the time because it's late for you, and I understand that you're flying to Turkey tomorrow. So
yeah,
thank you so much for your time, for hanging out with us, and to do this interview. I wanted to know if you have any final shout outs you want to give out before we let you go.
Not really. I mean, shout out to Emil for qualifying. To be honest, it felt like I qualified twice for event, so I'm really happy.
It looked like it too.
Yeah, oh yeah. And to be honest, like I always say this in every interview, shout out to Angel a bit more. I think you guys need to have him on if you can. Like he's actually so smart, and people don't realize how good he is. So.
Yeah,
the dad of Valorant, man.
I would actually love to have Angel on because I remember while the LCQ was going on in NA, and Angel stayed up and just tweeted out every fucking hour. It was so good. It was to meme, to like good tweets, like what the fuck is going on here? And then I think if anything, if Doombros is going to be somebody who's calm, then Angel is going to be the one that's going to be very vocal and confident to know that you guys will be the back-to-back champions. At least for us here, Doombros, on this podcast here, at least for me as well, I'm rooting for that storyline for the back-to-back to be you guys with FPX2. But I also want the fact that it's going to be an NA to win champions for once as well. It can't be MEA 2 years in a row. So I'm going to have to also go for my Optic boys and my 100 Thieves boys and my XSET boys. I'm going to have you shake your head, but we'll talk about it later, right? We'll talk about it later after champions. We'll talk about it later after champions.
All right.
Doombros, safe travels. All the best, man. And thank you so much for this. And we'll talk again very, very soon.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you, man. Chat, everybody here live on the chat for Twitch. We're going to take a quick break right now, and when we come back, we're going to break down the weekly news that we have going on in Valorant right here on Valoranting.